Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome, everybody, to another episode of Positive Talk. We got a great show for you today. I'm really excited about our guest today. His name is Michael Godin. He is a doctor. He's been in private practice, or I don't know if it's private or not, but he's been in practice for well over 20 years. And he is a plastic surgeon. So it means that he makes all of us look good, and that he can keep our whatever's falling down from falling down so much. I would think. He's also an author. He's got a couple of books out, and we're going to talk about all of that right now. And first of all, I'd like to welcome Dr. Michael. How are you?
I'm great, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's an awesome for you to be here, and you've got a couple of books. You've got one book that's out, and then you've got another book that is about ready to, as they say, be birthed or dropped or something.
Right. This is true.
When is the new book coming out?
So the new book will be out in the fall, and it is the sequel. I actually wrote it before the current book that's been released, but we're shooting for a September release.
Good for you. And how did you name? I got to ask you, where did you come up with the name for the first book?
Well, did you tell them what the name is? Do they know?
No, I'm a little scared too, quite frankly.
Don't be scared. It's right there. There's the name right there. Okay. All right.
It's called The Big Prick.
The Big Prick. That's it. And that's me. No, that's not me. The Big Prick, I guess, well, I know what it signifies. The book is about a coming of age story about doctors in training in the early to mid 1980s when the HIV epidemic was just starting. And the Big Prick was actually getting stuck in surgery and perhaps contracting HIV AIDS. And medical science did not have a lot of answers for it then. So it was a terrifying time to really be in medical training, and a horrific time for the patients whom we were desperately trying to save. So the title actually works on a number of levels. Some of the supervising residents that supervise these young residents or interns really are big pricks, and then it works on multiple levels. But yes. The big sick, the big sleep. It's kind of I just thought it was kind of a cute title. If I could have it back, maybe I would. But it's out there, so it will forever be known as the Big Prick.
It really is. And for those of you that, gosh, it's hard to believe that AIDS came out over 40 years ago. And for those of you that are under 40 or significantly so, you won't remember, or even close to 50, you won't remember what it was like in those days, because people started getting sick and nobody knew why. And they were having trouble figuring out, was it a viral thing? Was it? And so a lot of people, and a lot of people were getting sick and dying. I had a good friend of mine that swore that he had pneumonia and he died. Well, it turns out years later, they found out that he had AIDS. And but nobody knew anything about it. So I can imagine that from the medical point of view, you were a little concerned, as you should be, because people were dying and you didn't really know why.
That's exactly right. It was a terrifying time for patients and physicians alike. We didn't have a lot to save them back then, and we used to see these people come in terrible shape and a lot of times not leave the hospital. And for us, we were just starting in surgery, and you don't know what you're doing. You're training. You're doing your best, but you get poked with needles and drills and screws and bone fragments and everything as part of the training, we took extra precautions, but you never knew when something was going to happen. And I went to university health a couple of times, and got tested because there would be an inadvertent puncture or something in a case. We just didn't know. So it was really scary in that way. And it was so sad for the patients, and we tried our best. We saved some of them, but we didn't understand the disease. I can remember being in medical school in New Orleans, and at the very, very beginning, and they said there's this new disease. They're seeing it in bathhouses in San Francisco, and people are dying of immune deficiencies, diseases they had no idea, and what it was, or exactly how it was transmitted. And it took a while to piece that together, and of course, it took a long time to come up with a cure. And now, now there are effective treatments, and people can live a long life after contracting it. But the book is partially about that, which is a pretty heavy topic, but it's balanced by the natural humor that you just comes with taking care of human beings, and comes with training with young, inexperienced people who are just trying to do their best. So I think there's a balance. People have told me it's a light read, which sounds impossible with a book like this, but actually, I kind of think it is.
Well, it's interesting because I have never thought about being a doctor. Where did you decide that you thought that being a doctor was a good idea? Did blood bother you? Did other like barf and all the other things that are part of the human condition? Did any of that bother you?
When I first started out, I was a high school student, and I did a little research program at Los Angeles Children's Hospital in the neurosurgery department, and they brought us in to see an autopsy, and I just about lost my lunch during that. I was just not prepared for it. But as I grew older and matured and decided that medicine was what I wanted to do, it became much more. Just you become more used to it. I think the real Rubicon that you cross is, as a first year student, you dissect a cadaver, and that is a human being. And I mean, you take it apart, and people very generously donate their bodies to train young doctors. But that used to haunt me. I used to have dreams of what we did that day, just because it was such a sort of a psychologically powerful thing that we were doing. It felt so strange. But once you've done that, once you've been through every centimeter of a body, I think that you go out on the wards and you see people living, and you're trying to help them, and you kind of get past that. Some people can't, but most people can.
Well, I had a friend of mine that was he worked in an emergency room, and I said, how could you do that with all the the tragedy and the blood and all of that stuff that's involved with working in an emergency room? Excuse me. And he said, well, there's a point in time to when we start treating the patient, and not disrespectfully, but we treat them as like a machine. This is what's wrong with the machine, and this is what we need to do to go fix it. And so it becomes like being a mechanic, kind of. That's how he framed it. Was he kind of nuts, or is that kind of the detachment that you need to have to be able to figure it all out?
I can't speak to his mental status. I don't know the person, but I'm just teasing. But what I would say, he could be nuts. I don't know. But what I would say is that you're almost running two parallel series where, one, you are a technician, and there is a problem with the hardware. There is, you're going through your algorithms and you're trying to figure it all out. But balanced by this is a real human being in front of you, and they're suffering, and their loved ones are right there, or they're waiting out in the waiting room, and they've got people that depend on them or that love them, and so those two things are always hand in hand, and you have to address yourself to the task at hand, and do what you can to get them better. But at the same time, I don't think you ever lose sight of the fact that this is not a car. This is a human being, and what you're doing is high stakes stuff. It's pretty important some of the time.
Yes, indeed. And you know, I've had my number of surgeries. My sister's got. We used to have a contest to see who had the most surgeries.
Wow.
She now she's 5 years older than me, so now she's gone double digits ahead of me now,
Well,
which
okay.
is one of those things that I'm really happy that she's
Yeah.
doing
Yes.
that and that ain't me. Um,
Yes.
but you know, medical science is amazing to me, and I tell you, I've had both my hips replaced. And if without medical science, and one of them was 23, 24 years ago, and it's still doing fine. Without medical science, I would either be in a wheelchair or dead.
Yeah. Same with me. I had appendicitis as a kid. Appendix burst. The mortality is pretty high with that. So without medical science, we would not have the lifespan that we have.
So I thank you for being a doctor and doing what you're
Oh,
doing, because it really is it really is helpful. But um, what was it that you decided? As an example, I've different thing entirely, but I was a bus driver for 12 years. And so
really?
I have people that tell me, you must have a ton of stories that you should probably tell about being a bus driver. Well, you as a plastic surgeon have tons of stories that, and so you decided to tell those stories, or at least some of them.
That's right. I've always liked to write. I did a dual major, biology and English literature in college. And I've always written a lot of medical articles, written some textbooks. But writing fiction, always to me, that was kind of the special. That was kind of the apex of what you could do as a writer, because you're truly, rather than reporting something, you're actually creating something. And I had wanted to do it for quite a long time. And, uh, you know, I think that, we go through various phases in our life where, something drives us to write. And then decided that I had a taste for it. And I like the daily discipline of getting up and writing for a couple of hours in the mornings. And I enjoy that. So, what started as a short story became a novella, and then a novel, and then a bigger novel. So I don't think it's suitable for everybody, but I think that if you like to write and you have that gear in you, it's a great outlet. It's creative. It's enjoyable. So I make the time for it.
Now, what is your particular process? I've talked to people, and they have some of them will do a extensive outline. Some will, do a three-dimensional character or series of characters before they even begin. Some
Hmm.
of them will just sit down and just start writing and see where it goes. I don't
Yep.
know how that works. What's your process?
So I'm more of a plotting, right? I plot. I'm not really a discovery writer. Some people are discovery writers. I'm not really that. So I kind of figure out the story ahead of time. I put up storyboards. I make index cards with the different scenes, and how I want things to go. So I pretty much know what I'm going to write. And I just kind of break it into scenes. Maybe there's about 80 of them in the novel. And from those, we get the story. And sometimes, we switch things around, sometimes put scenes before the others. But the interesting thing is that if you know what you're going to write the next day, you know what the scene's about, you can kind of stop writing, go live your life, but in the back of your mind that things are developing and percolating. You get up the next day to write the scene, and things are there that wouldn't have been there if you had just continued to try to slog through it. So I think there's a subconscious at work there. And when you're really writing your best stuff, to me, the characters are actually doing what they want to do. And you're trying to record it. You know them so well, you know what they would do, but sometimes they actually surprise you with the things that you're writing that they're doing. So that I don't get in that groove. That's a very hard groove to get into, but I don't know. Maybe James Patterson is in that groove all the time. I don't know, but
Everybody's got a different process. There's a young gal that I know. Her name is Shanti, and she will sit down in an afternoon after school. She's 15 years old, and she'll write 1,000 page or 1,000 words an hour,
Mhm.
because it's like it just flows out of her. And it really is quite remarkable. But everybody's got a different process. It strikes me that doing the storyboards, doing the index cards and stuff would translate really well into creating a screenplay as well for your book. Does that make sense?
That does make sense, and there are some wonderful texts out there that advocate doing just that. And you have the kind of the classic rhythm of the story that if you look at almost all movies, they almost all follow the formula where, at some point there's what they call the dark night of the soul, and the main character's in torment and he gets broken down. And, almost all stories, are about an arc, about someone going on an adventure and transforming and becoming what they need to be through their adventure. So it's formulaic in a way. And I think both in novels and in movies.
And it strikes me that your book, with the title "The Big Prick," would make a really good screenplay.
Well, good. If any directors or producers or film people out there, please take note. Kevin's a smart guy. This can be yours. You could be the who in Hollywood will get this.
Well, and the other thing I've been told is that an author that puts together a screenplay, you almost have to divorce yourself from the screenplay once it's sold, because then it goes into other people's hands, and then it goes to the director and the producer, and they hire some more writers, and your story may end up looking completely different than you envisioned it. Would that be okay with you?
I think so. I would hope that maybe I could be a consultant or kind of sit in the corner and just kind of watch the big brains work, so I could learn a little bit about it. But I know that, when I read the novel and then, you see the movie or the play, of course it's different. It's usually condensed and they leave things out that you can't possibly convey, except through a novel. But those are the experts. That's what they get paid to do, and I get that.
Have you ever fantasized about who you would like to play your lead character?
Oh my gosh. Well, you know what? I don't know. In The Big Prick, Nick Jordan is about 30 years old. So he's a younger guy. In Fighting Gravity, he's about 50. So, I don't know. I don't know. Could be a younger George Clooney playing the older Nick. I don't know. But one thing I want to say, and I always tell everybody this is not autobiographical. Yes, it's about a doctor. Yes, I am a doctor, but you write what you know, but it doesn't have to be about you. And I really try to let everybody know that this is certainly not an autobiography.
Well, you certainly don't want somebody to read the book who used to be a patient of yours and say, oh, "That's me."
Well, I've taken great care to make sure that couldn't happen, and it comes by taking aspects of different stories and then building on them and upping the ante and making it more dramatic. Of course, no one's identified by name, but really, no one's really recognizable in the stories, and that's deliberate.
That's probably good for your lawyer fees.
Good, yeah, which I hope are non-existent.
Exactly, because they're like, anytime you even talk to a lawyer, it's like $3,000 or some stupid thing. But I'm afraid that I know that for a fact, because anyway.
Yes.
But it's fun to talk to you. By the way, we're talking with Michael Godin, right? Godin.
Go to dinner.
Go Michael Godin. If you go to his website, go to msgodin.com, and you can meet Michael. You can buy his book. I would recommend that you buy his book.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
I'm of the era that I remember when being an author, being a musician and stuff, you could make some money. And now it's really difficult to make, because of the powers that be. It makes it really difficult to sell a book and be able to make money from it, or a music or a song or whatever. So buy it from Michael. And the second choice that I would have for you is, if there's a mom and pop bookstore in your neighborhood, walk into there and say, I want to get the Big Prick.
I want to give somebody the Big Prick. That's right. Yep.
That's right. And please, can you order the Big Prick, please? And they'll order that for you, and then they can make a little bit of money too. So
They can do that.
I would highly advocate that. Again, we're talking with Michael Godin. We've got lots to talk about because he's a plastic surgeon, and I got lots of questions about and also the second book that's coming out in the fall, which is
Fighting Gravity.
I knew
Which
Gravity.
Is what we do. Again, another double entendre, right? Because that's what we do. Yeah,
exactly. And we need to take a quick break, and we will be right back with more right after we do this particular message. If I can find the way to go do this, I would be. There we go. Be right back.
They have your eyes. They have your ears. They have your smile. Now all they need is a little more of your time. Make a difference in your child's life, because anyone can be a father. It takes time to be a dad.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. We have a great author guest. He's written the book, The Big Prick. His name is Michael Godin, and I got to ask you, he's also a plastic surgeon. So the question begs to be asked, Michael, what is your favorite body part to operate on?
All right. Well, Kevin, I am actually a facial plastic surgeon. So
you missed all the good parts.
Neck up. And believe me, I have to say that a lot to people because, plastic surgeon, they ask me about all kinds of things and start to take their clothes off. And that's not what we want. Okay. I'm a face guy. So, we're just very family rated in the office. And, but having said that, my practice is almost exclusively aging face. I'm particularly fascinated by facelift, neck lift, just helping people look natural, but turning back that clock a good, 10, 12 years, and doing it safely and doing it reliably. And so that's been the focus of my career for about the past 25 years. Before that, I actually was full-time at the university. I used to like to say, if you get shot in the face at 3 a.m, I'm your guy, because that was what I did. Did a lot of cancer reconstruction, but I always had the cosmetic skills. And at some point, I just decided I wanted to go ahead and get that going. And it's been a very enjoyable, very gratifying career, and it continues to be so.
Well, I want to thank facial plastic surgeons specifically, because remember I told you that I had a bunch of surgeries and stuff?
Yes.
One of them was a facial surgery, and it was because my face ran into the fist of a boxer. And then I fell to the floor, and someplace between his fist and the floor, my right cheek was broken. And it was one of those things. It's right here, and it still is a little bit of a divot there 50 years later. But it literally had to move my cheek over, and the bridge that goes along the socket in your eye socket,
yes,
was actually dropped down a bit, and the whole side of my face was numb for about 6 months.
Yeah.
And you guys, the plastic surgeon put me back together. It took a long time to heal, though.
Yeah, it's and really we have an advantage in the face because we have the best blood supply in the body. If you're talking about an extremity or even the trunk, it can take longer a lot of the time because the blood flow is just not quite as good. The tissues are thicker. In the face, we have this beautiful blood supply to these delicate tissues, and we can get people to heal very often. There are a lot of factors that come into play in terms of the healing, but I think we're spoiled a little bit, and I guess that's one of the reasons I gravitated towards the head and neck, is because the anatomy is complex, it's fascinating, and it makes an impact. In terms of we have our face out every day, everyone sees it, and so it's gratifying to try to help people who need help in that way.
Do you find that when you do like a cosmetic facelift or something like that, does it really help somebody's self-esteem?
I think it can tremendously. It depends on the person, of course, but we're pretty strident about trying to make people comfortable with the process and making sure that we're going to get somebody who at the end of it is going to be pleased with the result. I know I can make things better physically, but they have to be able to see that and appreciate that. Having said that, yes, when we do facial surgery, whether it's rejuvenating people or whether it's fixing a feature that is suboptimal or out of the norm, we really change their lives.
Some people that make a decision, or for whatever reason, maybe have gastric bypass surgery or something like that, and they lose a tremendous amount of weight.
Yes.
They then have a skin problem, don't they?
They do, because you have deflated the balloon and you have a lot of extra tissue. We're seeing that now with the medications. It used to be, bypass surgery and whatnot. Now it's Ozempic and some of the others, they're taking that and people are losing tremendous amounts of weight. And we are seeing people coming into the office saying, you know what, my body's better, I feel better, my labs are better, but now I've got, things hanging down that I didn't have before because I've deflated the balloon. And that's where we can go in and try to help them. And
that really is, at that point, that's really the only option that they have, right? It's not like you can do face scrunches and stuff and tighten everything up.
Not really. It's the underlying musculature. It's the tissues. It's the connective tissue, and so we're able to move those to the more youthful positions. So for the right patient, it's very helpful. And it doesn't even have to be somebody who has lost weight, through a medication or through a surgery. It could be somebody who, has really worked hard and gotten their body in great shape after a long time. And the cherry on the top of the cake is that now I'm able to kind of restore the neck, restore the jawline, or what have you.
And or if you are like an older man and your wife leaves you suddenly and you want to appear 20 years younger, so that you can go back into the marketplace and find somebody else to date, that would be helpful for somebody, I would think.
Well, I would counsel that person that you don't want to appear 20 years younger. What you want to do is look great for the age that you are. Okay. So whatever age you are, own it, but be the best version of yourself that you can be doing that. And that's a time when, people lose confidence, and by, making the appearance more what they would like, we can restore some of the confidence.
Michael, one of the things I've noticed is that you have a tremendous head of hair.
Thank you very much. Yes. Is it on straight, Kevin?
I don't suppose that you don't suppose you do implants and work with hair, do you?
I am not a hair professional. So no, I'm a rejuvenation surgeon, but not a hair person. But they're out there. There are people that do that.
Yes, there are, but I'm no. Thank you. No. But rejuvenation specialist, what does that mean to me?
Well, it means that we are just taking normal features that are aging and just turning back the clock and trying to make them better. And by better, I mean more youthful. Putting things back to where they were when they were younger.
Is it expensive to do that? I know that you're worth every penny that you make. And do insurances cover them?
Insurance will cover certain things. For example, if someone's eyelids are very saggy and they're actually having difficulty seeing, there's something called a visual fields test where you can go to an eye doctor and they put your head in this big dome and they are flashing these lights and they see what your peripheral vision upward is and whether a brow lift or an eyelid surgery would help you. If that's the case, the insurance company will actually pay for it if you hit a certain number on that. For simply rejuvenating a face or a jawline or what have you, or other things that are less extreme, no, those are usually not covered by insurance.
Well, but if it makes you feel better and you feel better about yourself, that can affect you in a whole myriad of ways.
I think so. It gives people self-confidence, and in various ages. You take a young girl who maybe, she got a nose from dad that she really doesn't love, and it's really messing with their self-esteem, and you correct that nose a little bit. You make it a little bit more like the ideal nose. Very often you change her life. I mean, you just see the confidence. You see the way they walk in, the way they hold themselves when they walk into the office. It can be a beautiful thing. Or a kid whose ears are sticking out, and maybe a younger kid, and they're being teased at school, and you just kind of set them back to, they don't have to be perfect, but just set them back to a more usual position. Again, you're going to help that kid's self-esteem, and their studies have documented. There are plenty of studies that document that they actually do have better self-esteem.
Plain as the nose on your face.
That's right.
That is a big one, and it has affected my family as well. I have a son who has a port wine stain on his nose, and we've tried lasers, and we've tried all that. Hasn't really worked, and so it affected his self-esteem for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm. Well, keep checking in with the laser people, because the lasers get better and better. The technology gets better and better, and hopefully there will be at some point a technology that matches up with what he has. And I wouldn't necessarily give up on it.
Well, we as a family, I need to take a break here for our station break, but we as a family made a very big mistake that I want to get out there just in case somebody else can benefit from our stupidity. So, by the way, we're talking with Michael Godin, and he has written the book, The Big Prick. He's got another one coming out, and that's going to be out in the fall. And it's all about gravity. And as we get older, gravity just kind of affects us all over the place. But he works with gravity on your face, not those other parts that kind of,
That's right. Neck up.
Who was it? God rest her soul. Joan Rivers.
Yes.
She said, I was just walking down the street and I thought somebody was clapping behind me, but what it actually was my butt hit my thighs. So
she had a great sense of humor. She was very funny about the stuff we do.
Yes, because from what I understand, she had a lot of it done. So, but that's just the way it goes. We will be right back right after these messages.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome everybody to Positive Talk Radio. My name is Kevin McDonald, and we're talking with an author, and he is a great from the neck up plastic surgeon. I'm not exactly sure what you call that, but other than from the neck up plastic surgeon, but what would you call that?
I would call that a facial plastic surgeon.
Oh, very nice. That's what I would call it now too.
Thank you.
and he's been doing it for 25 years or more. He's been in medical practice. And how old were you when you got out of medical school?
I guess I went straight through. So medical school was ages 22 through 26.
And then you've got the residency.
Then you do an internship. And The Big Prick the book is set in an internship. And that's a 1-year kind of introduction to really laying hands on patients and getting involved. And that very often can be the most difficult year because you are literally the part of the totem pole that's in the ground. Okay, you have no control over everything. Everybody above you is telling you what to do. And then after the internship year, there's a residency, and that can be several years. Mine was 4 years. So it would be 5 years after medical school. And then perhaps if you want, you do what's called a fellowship, where you do more training. And I did a fellowship just in facial plastic surgery. So if you put med school and internship, residency, fellowship together, for me, you get about 10 years.
Now, did you ever think of it because of how many hours that you were working? It's like, why am I doing this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, particularly when in the older days, we worked 36-hour shifts. So we were exhausted. They're now illegal. You can't do that to people. But back in the days before the laws, they passed something called an 80-hour work week. So you're only supposed to be able to work 80 hours a week as somebody training. And that sounds like a lot, but it's a lot less than we were working at that time. I mean, I think I calculated what I was being paid, and I would have done much better working at Taco Bell, rather than training to be a doctor. And I would have certainly gotten a lot more sleep. But
36-hour shift. That's a day and a half.
Yeah,
that would be hard. How did you even stay awake, or was there a little cot that you could go sneak away to if there was nobody that was needing your immediate presence?
Oh yeah, we would get little naps whenever we could, but there were times when we couldn't. And the one thing you had going for you was you were young. I mean, I couldn't do it now, but back then, you could do a 36. Towards the end of it, you were pretty stupid and pretty silly, and that's one of the reasons they changed the laws. Was I think it was a dangerous situation for the doctors, dangerous situation for the patients, because we were involved with taking care of people. But everybody who trained in that age went through it. Things are better now. People are still working very hard and work very long hours, but it's not quite as crazy as it was back then.
See, so I can understand that, and this goes to the title of your book. If you're working long hours and you're tired and you can't get enough sleep and you get grumpy, it's easy to become the big prick, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, I refer back to the part I said about being the part of the totem pole on the ground. If you are, nobody cares. You still have to do all the work, and you've got no one to boss around. You're just you're a pawn in the game of life. You truly are at that point. So you can be as prickish as you want. Nobody cares. Just go do that.
Because you can prick down, but you can't prick up. Exactly.
Yeah, it's just not. It's something to get through and survive, and that's what we did.
By the way, did you know that you just said a quote from one of my favorite movies of all time, which was Blazing Saddles?
Yes, that would be Mongo.
You and I are from the same school. I'm but a pawn in the game of life.
Oh yeah.
So that's really good. So you've done that, and what are you going to do next? Are you a long way from retirement? Are you going to hang out and fix faces?
I think so. I'm early 60s, and I love what I do. I think as long as the eyes and the back and the hands hold up, you just get more experience. You get better. I know I'm doing the best work I've ever done, and I think that's going to continue for a while. So I think I've got a good, I'm going to say 10 to 12 years in me.
Well, that's awesome. And especially if you like what you do and you can help people. That's the major thing. Where are you practicing now?
So I practice primarily in Richmond, Virginia, and have done that for a long, long time. And I have family here and home here, but I also practice a little bit out in California. I practice in Los Angeles and with a wonderful group there, Osborne Head and Neck Institute. I'm mentioning them because they do wonderful work and they do a lot of humanitarian things. I had the great privilege to go on a medical mission to Peru, and we helped a lot of people that really had no other access to advanced healthcare. They've been all over the world, and so those are my partners in Los Angeles. They're wonderful. And then I also practice a little bit in La Jolla, California, just north of San Diego. I've got a little shack at the beach there, and I like hanging out there, and I have a great little group of patients who I take care of there. So that's and that goes back to the book. The book is set in San Diego, and the main character learns to surf in the course of the book. And I always enjoyed being in the water, and I still do. So that's part of the draw for me.
So how many frequent flyer miles do you have?
Not as many as I used to. I started going out of there because I was in Virginia. My parents both turned 80. They were in LA, and I just realized I wasn't seeing them enough, and they weren't getting any younger. So I approached one of my very first fellows. I train young doctors known as fellows. Every year I get to train one. My very first one was already in practice at Osborne Head and Neck, and I approached them, and they just welcomed me with open arms. Great guys. And so I had a place to work and got to see my parents a lot. We'd go out a week a month, and I think we they both passed now, but I think we probably had about 40 dinners that we wouldn't have had I not done that. So it was definitely worthwhile.
Well, I'm really glad that you have your priorities in order. And that's a really important piece that I want people to get, is even though that you were working a lot and doing a lot of things, and you're a doctor and you're doing the family connections were important to you. And that's really cool.
Of course. Yeah.
Well, you'd be amazed how many some people not being a little older myself and having children that don't pay attention to me like they once did.
I understand. But the way you just spoke about your son, I can tell you've got a strong family connections as well.
Oh yeah. And we care about each other and all that kind of good stuff. And my parents are now, that's an awful thing about getting older. My parents are passed, my brother's passed.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough, but I'm glad that things are working well for you. Now you've got Fighting Gravity coming out next in the fall. Have you thought about a follow-up to that? Is this going to be a trilogy?
It's a very interesting question that you ask, because I actually met with a dear friend, Ashley Farley, tremendous writer. You should have her on sometime. You would love Ashley. If it's okay, I'll give her your contact information.
Please.
She writes women's fiction. I think she's written 40 books. She's prolific. And I let her know that this book is about 60,000 words. It's not super long. Fighting Gravity, which is the sequel set 20 years in the future, is over 100,000 words. And she said, Michael, rather than having a much, much different and longer book, you might want to think about trying to make that into 2 books and adding some material and having a series. And there's some advantages in terms of storytelling, and there's some advantages in terms of just kind of marketing yourself as an author by having a series out there. And so I am weighing the pros and cons about that, and leaning towards Fighting Gravity will definitely be the next book. But I think what I'm going to end up doing is releasing another book shortly after that. That will be the follow-up to that. So the answer is yes. I think I have 2 in the hopper. Just have to make it happen.
That's cool. So for you, writing is kind of cathartic. Is that right?
Absolutely. When I think back to really difficult times in my life, I sort of realized that I wasn't doing it consciously, but I either wrote or journaled or wrote letters about, to people involved about what I was feeling. But I do think that writing, it's a creative process, it's a cathartic process. And that's also the exit strategy. I want to build a readership. It doesn't have to be huge, but just, enough that, I have, a meaningful amount of people who like what I write. And even when I'm done doing surgery and hang up the tools, I'm going to be doing this.
Now, how long has the Big Prick been out now?
Big Prick came out September 21st, which was my dear mama's birthday. So I would say about 5 months now.
And have the now did you self-publish, or was this through a publisher?
So I used kind of a hybrid publisher, they actually did a beautiful job. They hooked me up with kind of a publishing manager who was great. But I instigated it. I kind of went the classic route of doing the query letters to 40 different agents, and got some good feedback. But what you were alluding to before, that how difficult it is to sell books in the current sort of the current atmosphere, I got some feedback from a couple of agents that, years ago I would have happily represented this book, and you can definitely write, but in today's, sort of book publishing scene, I just, I don't think I can get it done. And so what that said to me was, okay, the book is good enough to publish. It's good enough to get out there, but because of the conditions, it's probably not going to right off the bat go with a big publisher. So yeah, I did it myself.
Isn't it sad that you spend a lot of time putting a book together and use your blood and your heart and your soul, and then you have to try and get it out to a publisher, and you send it out to a bunch of folks, you get some rejection letters, and you put your heart and your soul into it must be very frustrating at one point.
I don't know. I think I expected it. If you read anything at all about publishing, you realize that the numbers are against you, that a tremendous amount of people are writing and publishing books, and with the self-publishing revolution, it's people can do that. So I wasn't surprised. I'm a fairly determined guy, and I look at it as a challenge, and so it doesn't really get me down. It's just something that I embrace, and I don't think there's going to be a bolt of lightning and I'm going to all of a sudden, be on the New York Times bestseller list. I think I'm just going to build it, and you build it gradually. You build a readership, and then at some point, that's when the agents start coming to you and the publishers start coming to you when you have that kind of success. But unless you have celebrity, you have some amazing event in your life, I think that a lot of writers just kind of have to grind it out if you're willing to do that.
There's a gentleman who's coming on my show at the end of the month, and he had one of those bolt of lightning moments.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Gary Zukav, and he wrote Seed of the Soul.
Okay.
And this woman in the Chicago area read the book and loved it, and so she decided that she wanted to support this fellow, Gary. So she had him on her show several times, and put him on her preferred reading, and it was Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah, that's good. Oprah. If Oprah likes your book, that's a good thing. Oprah, if you're listening, please check out The Big Prick. Also, Reese Witherspoon, I hear, is another good person to like your book. So there's a few of them out there.
Yeah, well, and they've got the important part is for someone to have a platform that
Exactly.
they can support you and support the work and get the word out, because that really is what it's all about, and is getting the word out. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to sell a few copies of The Big Prick on Positive Talk.
Well, I'm so appreciative to be here, and appreciative of you taking your time, Kevin, to talk about it with me.
Well, it really is I think it's a cool book, and I must be juvenile because the title makes me giggle every time I say it.
There you go. I get a lot of comments on the title,
Oh, I bet you do.
Yeah, that's fine. And, it's, it is what it is. And it's gone this far, so I'm going with it. Well,
and you do the thing you get, and it's multi-layered, multi-meanings and stuff, yes, which really is very tongue-in-cheek and very, very cool. So congratulations. I need to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back for our final segment with Michael Godin. So stay right where you are. If you don't mind, this will just be 30 seconds.
A lifetime of savings can disappear overnight. Millions of dollars are stolen every day from unsuspecting older adults by family members, caregivers, and trusted professionals. If you suspect financial exploitation, call the Elder Care Locator at 1-800-677-1116 or go online to the National Adult Protective Services Association to be connected with help in your area.
See, that was only 30 seconds. They just make me do that just for fun. And you're listening to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Michael Godin is our author friend today, and also he travels the world doing facial surgeries and plastic surgery, and I really thought that was really cool that you got to go overseas and to work with some developed nations and kids and people who don't have access. If they've got a facial deformity, they don't have access. Now, do you work on cleft palates, or did you, when you were doing that and some of that kind of work?
I've assisted in some of those surgeries, and there have been some fallouts, in terms of other things that are associated with cleft palates, such as ear problems and things like that, I've helped with in the past. But that's a very particular and very special and actually very well organized part of surgical repair. So my thing is more just general plastic things and lesions and tumors and things of that nature. But certainly I've done a little bit of it, and I respect the people who do it well because they do it so well.
The folks that the life-changing effects of what that can do for somebody is amazing, and the ability for them to make it look whatever normal is, but almost normal, is really cool. So but when you were doing work overseas, some of the things were working with people's ears and other deformities that they had in their face.
A lot of post-traumatic things, people with scarring, people with functional problems, people growing tumors. And I worked with a team of surgeons who just did some amazing things. We have a head and neck oncologist, Dr. Osborne. He's at the Osborne Head and Neck Institute. And they have a series of videos, really well done videos, which I recommend to you. And you can see some pretty amazing surgeries being performed. And some of them are not only life altering, but life saving, in terms of very difficult tumors that maybe the local medical system just, doesn't quite have, the resources to take care of the way, we would take care of it here in the States.
Oh, I would imagine that having something in your sinuses or cancer or something like that can really be difficult. Number one, difficult to cure, but also life-changing, because it can actually disfigure somebody terribly.
Disfigure them, or affect their health in very negative or even fatal ways. So yes.
So I gotta ask you, because I've been around death a little bit, and being a plastic surgeon, I know that nowadays you're not. Hopefully, you're never around that these days.
Do you not want to be? No.
But when you were in working at the hospital and stuff, did you find it difficult to deal with the normal things that happen with death and dying and that kind of thing in the hospital?
It's definitely a challenging thing for, I think, anybody. The nurses, the doctors, everybody who works in that arena. We're going to see it. You work in a hospital, you're going to see it, and you really have to sort of steel yourself and do your best for the patient. Help them make good decisions. There are some end-of-life decisions that need to be made, and hopefully, they are prepared and they've kind of gone through that. Sometimes they haven't. You have to try to assist families and the people that they love. So those are difficult times, but there are other times where people have really fought the good fight for a long time, and it's not going to get any better, and they're ready. And those are difficult situations, but it's all part of it. You go in a hospital. I think Charity Hospital of New Orleans had, which is no longer a functioning hospital, but way back when, it was enormous. It was one of the largest public hospitals in the world, and there was something written in stone there, and it said, "Within these walls, life begins and ends." Okay, and that's a pretty profound thing when you think about it. That you walk in there and you read that, but it's completely true. So, my hat is off to. I have nothing but respect for the people, the doctors who do much more important work than me. That are curing cancer, that are in there, fighting to give people a longer, better chance at life. So, they're doing that, and I've got nothing but respect for that.
I've been fortunate to I've had several stays in the hospital, and the people that I really, 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 really respect are the nurses on the floor that are there every day, doing what they do. I don't know how they do what they do. It is, to me, that's would be crushing.
Yeah. I mean, you don't go into nursing to, become a billionaire. You go in there because you want to help people. And it's the nurses, it's the orderlies, it's the nutrition people, it's the pulmonary technicians. There's just a cast of people that are there helping, and they're all doing, what I think of as God's work. So I really appreciate them.
I agree with you. So we've just got a couple of moments left. I wanted to give you an opportunity, which I do pretty much every show, is I would love for you to tell our audience anything that you would like them to know about you, about your work, about the books, about life, about just darn near anything.
Okay, well, let me think. I guess this is Positive Talk Radio, so I think that it's possible to sort of reinvent yourself a little bit later in life. Starting to write really in your 50s and 60s and getting into the publishing thing and learning about that. That's been a lot of work, but it's been a joy for me. And I would say that this is not a dress rehearsal. This is our life. So, take it by the horns and give it a good run, give it a good ride. I feel very blessed that I have wonderful people in my life, that I've had wonderful people in my life, and that I've been able to impact people as a physician, but also now starting to as a storyteller as well.
And Michael Godin is his name. And go to his website, which is msgodin.com. The big prick is there. You can go buy that book right now. And it would be a great thing for you to do. And I really...
There it is, right there.
There it is. right there for God and everybody. He is a delightful man, and I really have enjoyed talking to you and this interview. And the point you made about, even though you're a successful doctor and you've got a successful practice, so you've got a bunch of them, and you fly around the country and stuff, you still need to satisfy your inner passions, and you need to be able to be willing to do that. And 50 and 60, and I'm there, so that's not, you're never too old. And what I want people to realize is that rather than waiting to just die and sitting there watching TV, go volunteer, go help somebody, go be kind to somebody else, and get out of your house, get out of your own way. I live in a 55 plus community, and a lot of these people, they just sit down and they just watch TV all day, and they don't get out and they don't experience life, and that's just too bad. So
yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, Kevin. Thank you so much.
Well, congratulations on what you do, and thank you for what you do. And I'm looking forward. Will you come back when Fighting Gravity comes out?
I would love to. And right back at you, and congratulations with what you do.
Well, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay. And we need to go, but we'll be back again soon, maybe even.
Sure.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. We are a production of KMmedia.pro, a full-service media company. Whether it is audio, video, shorts, or longer pieces, we're able to take each project from beginning to final product within your time frame and on budget. Visit KMmedia.pro for more details about us and to get started on your project. We also would like to thank the Brushwood Media Network for all their support. Go to brushwoodmedianetwork.com to find out more about them and the quality shows featured on the network. Until then, we'll see you next time. My name again is Kevin McDonald, and please remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've